So, just join me, please. Maybe she should not ask me to introduce Sarah, but I will try and do that. I won't say a lot, but Sarah is a real gem. Oh, I've worked with her for years. The stuff that she would be talking about here, she would not be theorizing or telling you something that is out there. So why I'm saying it is hard to introduce her, because she's a very big definition of some of us and how we got here and what is happening around this place. And she is connected to the space. And although now she's alone and is working out there, Sarah is just Sarah. Totally accomplished, has walked the talk and random slums and rural places, really being a change agent. Instead of waiting for the change to happen, she has been making it happen there. Pearl Network is looking at me because they are witnesses, and I have many other witnesses. So, Sarah, it's a privilege to have you. I don't feel like we have any stranger in the house. So come and address your people, like they say in politicians.
You know, when someone comes to address, they now begin the chief guest. The coaches. All protocol observed. But really, it is a pleasure to be with you here again. I think I'm almost becoming a resident, that whenever you come and meet for the celebrations, I am with you, and really celebrating with you. And to the last celebration, I was told not to come, and she told me not to come. I think she was still viewing me a bit of a stranger, but today I've been told it's okay. We can be part of, even when you're talking about your vulnerabilities, because we are that team. So as I was seated over here, this is not going to be a speech, it's a conversation. I was wondering what will make sense, because you're still in this journey. And I just have 2 points to make. I know I'm also standing between you and lunch. And I thought I was going to stress on what you've been doing, which is towards building leadership communities. For me, leadership communities. Those are the 2 things that you need to continue doing. And I've been hearing many things, so I'm really just reiterating what I've been hearing. But allow me, and as I'm standing over here, I'm really standing as an East African, and Mozambique is also part of the wider East Africa, Eastern Africa, you know. So when I look at the face of CSOs, or the face of NGOs in East Africa, it has been changing. It has been changing, and we have been, I think, active travelers in this journey. It has been changing from one in which where we were mostly invested in service delivery, but now we are seeing quite a number of you saying, well, that is important, it is not enough. We need to be also policy facing, trying to focus on the things and the institutions that will ensure the change happens beyond just us. It has been changing from one in which decisions were mainly made from the outside. But now we are seeing more locally, more national facing decision making. In other words, you are at the center, that when you say you're doing something, you do it. You have the agency to do that. And that has been changing from being told to now thinking and doing it. It has been changing from one in which we were comfortable with parallel planning, parallel provisioning, to seeking more integration in the systems. In other words, the civil society today is professionalizing. It is becoming, it is earning its right to be in that space, more than ever. And if you're still waiting to be invited, that's up to you. With the kind of investment that is being put, you have to also invite yourself to to the space that you think is important. And so more is being expected of us, because the social problems, while we are where we are, those problems seem to continue unabated. They seem to be increasing. And yet all of us, in all our organizations, I think we are all united because we are trying to address, redress some sort of justice, some sort of social injustice, some sort of gender injustice, disability. You know, there's a particular level that we acknowledge that there's a difference and there is something we can do to leapfrog and ensure that there is more equity in our world. And especially where we are standing today, there is so much inequity. And so I thought I'll just stress two things, which I think will be relevant to what we are doing today. And the first thing is that we have a responsibility to strengthen ourselves. We have a responsibility to strengthen the civil society organizations, to strengthen the NGOs. And for us to do that, we have to continue professionalizing. We have to continue professionalizing. And because of this element of professionalizing, what I've been seeing is that quite a number of you are being invited to the table. Some are worried that this means some of you are being co-opted as CSOs, and you feel that that is problematic. That's fine. When I was in government, I remember once going with for a government whatever function, and there were delegations. The delegations from Africa, government would be alone, and then a few of the civil society organizations who have gotten money would come. Then we were looking at the delegation from Europe, from Ireland. The person who was leading that delegation was an NGO person who had a specialization. And that was the delegation from Ireland, a country. So this siloing we have, where you're worried about co-option, that you shouldn't. Because we need to go to a level where, because you have professionalized, somebody seated in government will say, when I'm talking about looking at disability, the organization that has done a good job is the Action Foundation. And therefore, we want the Action Foundation to lead the Kenyan delegation. We want Musichana Initiative to lead the delegation from Tanzania that is going to address and talk about what we need to do for girls. So there's nothing wrong with doing that, because isn't that why we are here? But for you to get there, you have to professionalize. You have to be good. You cannot ask you cannot ask for the society what you're not able to give. So this professionalizing is very important, strengthening ourselves so that we can be good at what we are doing. The second and the last one I'm going to talk about is that you cannot give what you do not have. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot ask communities to do this and that when you're not doing it. You cannot ask people to be more trusting when you're not doing that. You cannot start demanding for justice from the government when you yourself are not doing that in your own organizations. And so if we are able to professionalize and to be good at what we are doing, then we have to start from ourselves. We cannot get change if we do not have clarity of the purpose why we are here. So I like what I was hearing about taking your time for self-reflection, about taking your time for self-discovery. These are words I've been hearing. Many of you have said that you are here because you know you are transformative. You have come and you're aiming for leadership transformative. And I really hope that you are serious about that, because it means that you are taking the responsibility of improving yourself first in order to be able to give. And when I look back at my own 20 or so years, no, was it 20? Maybe 15 years in the NGO space. Before that, I was elsewhere. We were so busy trying to solve the problems out there that I think I did not pay pay enough attention to the organization, to individual well-being, to reaching out to each other so that you learn from each other. And you have that golden opportunity. So make the most out of it. Make the most out of it. It was a bit worrying to hear Christine say that you always say you're going to call, but you never call. In other words, the intent to keep on learning seems to be within this room, and after you leave, then that intention sort of fades away. So let us be accountable to what we are claiming we want to do if you think it is important. So we cannot give what you do not have and always try to improve. Transformation, if we were to count the word transformation in all these yellow, red, green things, I think there are many. Many of us have used that word. But maybe we also need tips to be able to ensure it's a good thing to aim for, but it's something that I think one has to train themselves mentally. For me, I think is important before you go to the practice. I'll give you an example of what I now use in my space, because I work with the Kidna and Beer about girls, delivering on the promise of girls' education. And I have found, or we have found, that it is really important when we're talking about gender to also build mental clarity. Because in gender, we're also hoping for gender transformation. You know, where a child, a girl, a boy is able to grow to be what they want, not what society wants. And they're supported to be able to do that. But for us to be able to reach there, we realized it was important to come up with a gender marker. So I'm also saying maybe you need a leadership marker for yourselves. Because this is something that has allowed us mental clarity. And it is also important to know where you're starting and where you are going. So the challenge I have for you is that in your leadership transformation, do you know where you have started and do you know where you're going? Because if you do not do that, then you're not going to be able to grow. And many of you kept on saying that growth is very important for you. So the gender marker, we have some 4 or 5 stages. There are those organizations or individuals or programs that are, before we would have said gender blind, but now let's just say gender neutral. You know, their world is just a world. So they're neutral. Even when you're talking about your organizational policies, you will talk about children, youth, which are other generic terms. You know, those generic terms that are not able to tell you anything about the people or the children in there. So they're very neutral. Then the next phase are those whom we can call either gender sensitive or gender responsive. That means at least they will identify, like in Pearl Network, you will say there were so many boys, so many girls, whose learning outcomes are this way or that way. In Como, you will say that we have our programs have got so many girls who are leading them, so many boys, etc. So you identify. So you're responsive in that you identify and acknowledge. Then the next phase is being gender intentional and gender transformative. So in gender intentional, you are now more analytic. And I'll give you an example. Some of you have heard it, but it's one of my perfect examples. That say you're running a meeting and you have invited women to come at 8 o'clock to a school. And you're in a village, in an area. Will the women come at 8 o'clock or not? Why will they not come? Yes? Chose. They will not come, isn't it? So because you are understanding, and you have a good understanding of the various responsibilities these women do, you therefore decide that you're going to move the meeting to what time? 2 o'clock, isn't it? At 2 o'clock, the children will have come back, eaten lunch, so you'll have done all the chores. And then now the women will come for the meeting. So then you're being intentional. You have done your analysis. You understand your society. and at least you are doing a step to ensure that the women come for the meeting. And that is good. So what I'm saying is that when you are being responsive, it is good. When you're being intentional, it is also good. But the challenge, which all of you have said, is that you want to be transformational. So in this example, to be transformational, what you're going to do is to insist that the meeting will remain at 8. But you're going to invite everybody for a discussion. And in the discussion, you're going to ask, why is it that at this time, all the women in our community are doing work? Are they the only ones to do it? Is there any way we can address it? Then it will lead you to say, looking at the balance between the roles, etc., etc. And then you leave that meeting at 8, but you agree that the tasks need to be done, and they must be done. And women are not the only ones in society. So what happens over there is that you are changing a behavior. Even if it's one instance. But in that one time, somebody else will do these chores so that the women attend this meeting. I'm giving this example so that you can begin to build some mental clarity in yourselves, whether you're actually being transformative or that you are somewhere here and you still have a journey of growth. For you to change in your leadership as an individual or as a community, then you also need to build your mental clarity and mental strength and be intentional about doing what you want to do. When you do that, then what you will find is that you will begin developing the practices that are needed for you to be the kind of leader you have identified you want to be. So this is not something that is only out there. All your facets of yourself need to be involved, including your mental strength. It means reading. It means finding concrete examples. Armando said, what do we do in order we do not backslide? I always like the idea of concrete steps. What are some of these concrete steps that you can take individually as a collective? Build them, share them. And that is why when I'm talking, I like talking in examples, because I find what I can visualize, I can begin to want. So this transformation is a beautiful thing. And it is possible. For me, my glass of water is always half full. But it means there needs to be an intentionality. But I think as a group, you are so privileged to have. I honestly look back and I say, when I was starting organizations, leading organizations, I was very lonely. You know, we were not talking as much. You are the cadre that have taught us that you can collaborate, that cooperation, seeking each other is stronger than being alone. And I really hope that you can continue together in this journey where each of you has got your niche area. You have your responsibility. You have what is your strength. But that is not enough if you're going to go it alone. You can come together to learn approaches, to learn skills, to build leadership communities. Some people I hear say this is more like horizontal leadership, which is quite akin to the feminist principles. Msichana identify themselves as a feminist organization, or you're shy when you're in this group. You know? and that horizontality, bringing together each other together, is a beautiful thing, so that you can walk together in this particular journey. I like looking at Proverbs, and there's a proverb that says, wisdom is like a baobab tree. You cannot embrace it alone. Don't embrace anything alone. Be like that baobab tree that is so big. Because you know we need this bigness in East Africa and in Africa to solve some of these problems that we have. Embrace it together. Walk this journey together. And I think you will be able to solve some of these problems that some of us did not do when we were in your seat. Now I am here where I am, rooting all of us to solve this for ourselves and for the generations to come. Thank you.
have listened to speeches. Even all of you, at your ages, you've listened to speeches. And many times you have the speech, and when we should finish, we go for lunch. Are you hearing me? And I'm not just saying it just because she's the donor. We say it's the donor. She can open her checkbook. I'm not saying just because of that, but every time Sarah speaks, I was actually writing notes. I hardly write notes when people are speaking because I've had it all. But you really, like now you just challenge us now. In the evening when you ask, hey, what are our markers as leaders? You always leave us with not just words of wisdom, but a challenge. What are your markers, you yourself as a leader? What are your organizational markers? So thank you so much for really adding value. We said in the morning we're going to build more, learn more, grow more. So that is a real value addition to our program, to our thinking, to our celebration summit. So give our last round of applause. And just day one. Actually, just day one, lunchtime. So let's take a lunch break. Sarah, are you staying with us? Thank you so much for sharing your morning with us. We really appreciate it. And you're part of us now. Cohort, the next one. Thank you so much. Let's go for lunch and come back at, what does the timetable say there? Hey, and it's an energizer from PAL.